Welcome back. This is Tony with Larry's Off-Road. We are back in the shop working on this project. Last time you saw this, it was up on a trailer. Now we've gotten it off, kind of taken a better look at it, assessed some of the damages from the wreck it was in. But first off, our goal of this project is to be a kind of thorough economy rebuild. So we're going to reuse the parts we can reuse. If it's good, we'll use it, and if it needs replaced, we'll replace it. But we want to go through a thorough, but we're not going to, get the chassis sandblasted and powder coat the frame and all of that. But I've got Larry here, and I want to ask you a couple questions here. What is kind of some of the first things you'd look at? Let's say you get this project from a buddy, or you come across a chassis like this. What's something right off the bat you can look for?
Well, this one here, looking into it, I mean, looks like a decent project to start with, but we looking a little bit deeper, we're seeing more problems. We had realized it had been in a wreck. We're seeing more damage than we noticed right off the bat. It got hit from the driver's side. This tunnel looks like it's crooked. We thought we could pour it apart from this. We thought we could pour it apart from here to here to push that damage a little bit that direction. It might be more than we thought. We're gonna start off with a pour apart just to kind of push that beam back over. The beam is not gone. I mean, it does have a little tweak to it. If we can take that out and still get the suspension to move, if we can move that enough, but we're a couple inches out. So if we can push that back, we might be able to save the chassis. Otherwise, we could build a tube chassis, get rid of all this old stuff, build a tube chassis. But if we do that, then where do you stop? We are at that point, we're thinking maybe going to IRS. So now we're talking a different project. So we're wanting this to be a little simpler, kind of use what you got, kind of a deal.
Yeah, you can see real well if you use that line as a parallel. This line, the whole front end is cocked this way. So this end here is actually, what was it, 2.5 inches. If you measure kind of from the beam to this beam, and from there to there, this side's about 2.5 inches off. So, and if you look, I mean, it is kind of curved. There's this huge dent, pretty deep dent right here. Here's this little frame support on this side. Well, this one, here it is, this side, this was totally just destroyed.
So it got hit
Yeah, it got hit. You can see, this big gap in here. So
you can see where it's pulled these bolts here into the head assembly. So if we could actually push that back out, we could weld around these here and kind of save that head assembly. We were hoping to not get into so much of a project. We've got plenty of projects, and this is not one we want to spend a ton of time on. So we're hoping to use what we can. And if it gets into where the straighten it out is going to be more than we want to do, we may start with another pan, because we've got a couple other chassis to work with. I mean, we have one that would be probably straight to start with, and we may forego this one and switch modes there anyway. But we do have a decent front end to work with. We've got an engine that we're noticing on the engine. It doesn't have a crazy amount of in play. This is, anytime you're looking at a used VW engine, what you want here is about 5 thousandths in play. Well, 5 thousandths, you really need an indicator to feel, but I mean, you can usually tell if you can just barely move it, you're not crazy in play, because if you get one that's really bad, I mean, you can feel a real clunk. I mean, this one I can feel a little in play, but I've also noticed that this pulley, and this is something you don't see very often, or I've not run into, but that slot on the pulley is loose. So this nut or something it's not loose, but it's got movement back and forth. So that slot on the pulley has got some damage there. So I may be feeling even that slot problem for my end play. So bottom line, the end play is not crazy bad on this one. So that tells me that the engine, if you have a lot of end plays from the start, you got to rebuild that engine. You got to tear it down. So and then Ron would line bore it, and we can fix that to a point. You can cut them 40 thousandths and 80 thousandths to fix your end plate. Past that, you can't get line bore bearings. We'll get this thing, we'll get the engine out, we'll get it on the engine stand, see what that's looking like. We can see if it fires up, see if it's going to be something. The customer did tell us that he had rebuilt it. I don't know the time frame on when that rebuild was. You never know on these used things. We'll kind of go from there, but the front end is in pretty decent shape. We don't have a lot of rust. Hopefully the bend is not too bad. We can probably straighten some of that out as long as we still have suspension. Kingpins, link pins aren't too bad. I mean, again, like Tony said, this is not going to be a thorough rebuild. We don't want to powder coat it. We don't want to put a ton of money into it because it's kind of an economy build. That could be somewhat where they cut the thing.
Cut the floor pan
The
in?
seam is.
Oh, okay.
See, they've seamed it across there. That could be whacked out from that work, and they've capped it all off here.
What do you think that big dent's from?
I would say
The wreck?
that's from the wreck. You think that could be from where it's just tweaked it and popped it in there?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
I don't know that anything hit it. Of course, that could have peeled the paint where this thing went.
Right. We're maybe not sure if this is going to be worth it for this project. This should be, this gap should be parallel. This piece here is moved forward. This should be back behind here. So this whole frame is just severely tweaked. I mean, look, you can tell here's back of the car and it kind of goes off that way. And not only is it going left, but how flat is the whole thing. It's probably bent. So we're just trying to determine how out of whack this is and how can we, are we going to be able to bring it back?
It's not ungodly, but it's at least we're back on the beam itself. It's probably bent back maybe an eighth to 3/16, maybe a quarter.
Okay, so the beam itself
so
is
that
bent
would
a little
bring
bit.
back. I can't tell if that torsion is.
Right. I mean, we got some problems because this itself here, this whole thing is bent. Look, you can see right here, yeah, it's caved in here. So it's buckled. When this whole thing moved, this is buckled in. So we're bent all the bend and the damage.
Buckled here.
Yeah. So when this.
So will some of that come back if we put a quarter par on there? Let's just spend a minute and see if that. Put a couple jack stands under the back here just to make this pair. So this is just even with the ground on both sides. Okay, so since this is flat, we measure the front beam and we find out the front is twisted like this. So we're about 1.25 inches or so up that way. So to straighten this, we've got to move this way, and we've got to bend this thing back to where it's parallel to the ground. So we're gonna start kind of pushing it this direction, and we can always chain it down, and we can actually push up on with a floor jack to kind of twist that back around just to get that straight. And once knowing that we've got this damage, if we decide this is feasible, we'll have to reinforce this. So we'll do that with some tubing maybe down the side pan, which is minimal, but we will actually add some tubing to like a roll bar. Instead of just a roll bar, we'll make some kind of a cage for it, just to kind of give us a little bit more structure. Again, this is not going to be an 80-mile-an-hour down the highway car. This is going to be an off-road trail buggy, maybe around town kind of a thing. So we're not setting our bar really super high. So. That front there.
So what we're doing this is our effort to just see if this is going to maybe be possible, is we're applying pressure here and up there. That porta-par, this is expanding and pushing it that way. Again,
just measure. See.
We're going to measure and see if it's even moving the right direction here. All right, Larry, what's going on?
Here's where we're at. This is probably turning into more of a project than we really want to get into, since we have other things to work with as far as the pan goes. We poured apart from this direction here. We're starting to pull the bolts out of the front of here. We're still a couple inches. So we're really jacked in about 2.5 inches this way. So yeah, I'm not saying this can't be fixed, but we don't have to fix it. We got other chassis that would be a lot less work to use, because it's not our first choice. You know, you can't put for off-road, you can't put like a 3-rib or 6-rib bus in a swing axle. You can cut this out, you can make this into an IRS. We're not going to go through all that on this project. But our cut down shortened chassis are all swing axle, typically what you would see, because a lot of these things were made back in the 60s, and the donor cars were old swing axle, kingpin, swing axle chassis. So our other couple donor shortened pans are going to be swing axle kingpin, which kingpin front end great for off-road. Swing axle good for many things. See a lot of trikes, a lot of dune buggies, swing axle. Drag cars use swing axle, but a little harder to get, a little older, a little tougher to come by. So we don't have as many extra swing axle trannies around. So but for this project, we're not looking for the best of the best. So we'll look for a better tunnel. We think we have one outside. We're gonna drag it in, see what it looks like, do a little measure maybe before we drag it in, and see if it might be a better choice to start with.